interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Yo, it's Remember the Show. Slick with the flows, where the sparring can go. Who's gonna be on, man, you never will know. Guess you better tune in, cause we live from Chicago. Belal Muhammad, that's the king of the tweets. Jason Anik looks like John, step his hands to his feet. Every Thursday, we gon' give you a treat. It's Remember the Show, hit play and repeat. And retweet, and retweet, and retweet. And retweet, it's Remember the Show, hit play and repeat.
Oh, I like seeing Flash Gordon in that intro. That hits a little different today, you can be sure. What is up? It is Friday, the 16th of November, 2022. It is Remember the Show. Those of you joining us live, we appreciate that you remember the show tonight, or today, I should say. It's like a happy hour edition of Remember the Show. Belal Muhammad flu-like symptoms last night, but he's with us today. My name's Jason Anik. I got to meet Belal Muhammad last weekend, UFC 282. Spent some time with you, bro. Great to be with you then. Great to be with you here. How you feeling today, man?
What's up, my brother? Yeah, man, last week, that was some good times, except for the whole robbery. But other than that, I got to meet my brother. It was fun. But man, got freaking shot with some sort of flu. But if my brother John could do it, did his whole pay-per-view with him, I'm like, bro, I got to man up. I could do a podcast with flu-like symptoms. So I'm doing it from bed. I was like, we took off last week. I was like, we have to come on the show today.
I love it. Well, we missed you last night. I was all ready. I had all my prep done, and you were like, I just couldn't do it. But yeah, and what he's referencing, Belal called it, John's Jordan flu game, which UFC 281. John was pretty sick. I think he had strep. But anyway, made it happen. But Belal was pretty sick last night. Not 100%, but he's with us today. But dude, it was great to be with you. Belal and I got to go to the ceremonial weigh-ins, which I actually don't go to very often. So that was cool to sit with the fighters. Just a crazy experience all around. So we might as well just get right into it. So the 10 straight finishes, and then we get to the co-main event of the evening. I'm all excited. Belal Muhammad in the corner. I don't even know where to begin. I'm just going to say I haven't watched it back. I don't want to watch it back, right? Sitting octagon side. For me, it was 30-27 Gordon. I thought he won the first 2 rounds. And then the third round, I thought, it kind of was what it was, but I thought the outcome of the fight had already, in my mind, been decided at that point. I didn't have any benefit of commentary. I know you've said a lot about this. Jared said a lot, but talk to me on your show, man. Where are you at today with this?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched it multiple times. I've watched it probably like 2 to 3 times. And like you said, I still give him a 30-27. I still don't see it. Fight night, I'm sitting there, you're looking at it, and me and Joe Rogan looked at each other, and Joe's like, yo, I got 30-27 Jared. And I'm looking at it like I thought it was a win for Jared. And, even Dana came out and he was talking about the corner work and everything like that. And I'm like, his corner, Jason Strauss, shout out to Jason. He said, yo, this is a close fight. You need to win this third round. So it's not like he told him, yo, push him against the fence. Jared had, he hurt his ankle. I don't know if you guys saw him after the fight. He could have barely walk. So, like, that was one of the reasons why he did that whole wrestling thing in the end, because he hurt his ankle really bad. One of the kicks earlier in the fight. So he said he couldn't get any push off on it, and he didn't want to get stuck. You can't move forward, you can't move back, you end up getting punched. So he was trying to get the takedown. He felt him in the first round, how he controlled him pretty easily at the end of the first round. So he's like, if I get this takedown, this fight's over. I'm going to ground upon him to death. It's going to be over for him. Paddy looked tired too. And another thing I tell people, it's like Paddy wanted to be on the cage. Paddy was kind of like holding Jared there. So Jared was going for takedowns up and down, but Paddy could have circled off, and then it would end up being a striking match. But Paddy wanted to be there. Paddy was holding that overhook and keeping himself on the cage the whole time. If he was fighting to get off, that leaves openings for Jared to throw that big hook that was landing all day. So I think that Paddy deserves more of the blame for that third round than anything, because if you're Jared, you're going for takedowns. You're throwing knees to the body. You're throwing knees to the leg. I don't know what you guys consider significant, but those hurt. And I think any strike that you land is considered a significant strike. So I figured if that's all we had to judge from the third round, Jared for sure won that third round. He controlled it. He went for takedowns. Paddy was just literally standing there the whole time. He even admitted to taking the round off. And you can just tell because I'm looking at him like, what is the guy doing? He's not trying at all to get off the cage. And when you're wrestling and you got a guy just like holding you there, it's like you're trying to figure out a way to take him down. But like Paddy wasn't leaving any openings at all for Jared to move, shoot lower, shoot higher, go to the upper body. So I think he has more to blame for that third round. But the first 2 rounds, like I said, I thought Jared won those pretty decisively. And I know even Jared in a couple of his interviews where he was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could give him the second round. But I think it's more so he just has so many people in his head. He's doing a million interviews. I'm like, bro, shut up. You won all 3 rounds. Like, that was a robbery. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what kind of expert you are. That first round, Jared landed 36 strikes. Paddy landed 22. Jared had a takedown at the end of the round. How in anybody's right mind do you give Paddy that round?
You know, and I'm not going to get off on a tangent talking about scoring. And certainly these 3-round fights, 15 minutes, it can be pretty tough, especially when you're breaking it into 3 specific sections, right? And John and I talk about this all the time. You watch a 15-minute fight, you think I'm sitting there cage side trying to score this fight? That's the furthest thing from my mind is scoring this fight. But when you finish watching it, it's pretty clear to you what the outcome of the fight was. And John has said to me ad nauseum, the scoring system doesn't fit the sport. Well, hearing that to me, it's like, well, I mean, I don't even know where to go when I hear something like that. You know, imagine if the scoring didn't fit the sport for the NBA or the NFL. And you see these sports make adjustments, right? In the NFL, the extra point was too close a little while back. It was right. They moved the extra point back. There's certain things they've done because of concussions on kickoffs, right? The NBA has moved the 3-point line and different things. But to me, whatever has to happen, for everybody to come back and sort of dissect it and micromanage the rounds at this point, I think we lose sight of the moment, you know?
Exactly. Ray Longo on the Monday show where he's like, all right, why don't we just judge all the fights on Monday after? We don't even judge the fights on that Saturday night. We wait till Monday. We rewatch it 3 or 4 times, and then we come out with the score. Like, no, if you're watching a clear fight night, if you're a judge that's judged over 1 million fights, how could you watch that fight and tell me that Jared did not win it? How could you watch the first round? I don't even care about the fight. How can you watch the first round and tell me Jared didn't win it? It's just these guys are like uneducated. And when you look at some of the guys that are up there, Doug Crosby, and you see the stuff that he's been through, how people complain about him, I think it's time to start getting rid of some of these guys because it's a joke. It's taking the check away from somebody, and it's taking his trajectory away. Like Jared should have went from there. He was ready to call out a bigger name. He was ready to call out Dan Hooker. He was ready to call out one of these bigger name guys, and like he would have been in the right place to do it. Now it's like the whole world thinks I won, but at the end of the day, it's still L next to your name. So that's what sucks.
No question about it. And as time goes on, it becomes a close decision, you know, and it's a unanimous decision. It wasn't a split.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, I thought the main event, and well, before we move on from Flash, just want to say, sitting cage side and supporting Jared. I've never met Jared physically, but I've been in the building for a lot of his fights and certainly consider him a friend through you to whatever extent. I couldn't have been more proud to watch him right there beat Paddy Pimblett as a 2-1 underdog, and period, end of story. So congratulations, Jared. From my standpoint, looked like you won the game.
Honestly, that was the biggest thing. It's like he's always had those. You wait for that one moment where it's like the whole crowd's against you. Even in Vegas, not even in London, the whole crowd was rooting for Paddy Pimblett, and you're coming out, and when you see him, they literally let him walk out for like 5 minutes, and you thought the moment was gonna be too big for Jared. And he didn't. It wasn't too big for him. He showed up and he showed out. And that was what makes me more mad about it more than anything, because he deserved to get his hand raised. Whether the whole world's saying he won or not, like he still deserved that moment, because that's a storybook moment for a guy like him, was come back from so much, come back from death. And if people know his story, you know how much this guy's had to fight back. So for them to steal it from him, it just sucks, because like he deserved it, he earned it. And man,
I'm with you. Like, as you guys just like immediately exit the octagon, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, whoa. Like, aren't you going to get on the mic, Rogan? Aren't you going to ask Jared about this decision? You know, like, I was like, what's happening here? You know, it all happened so fast, and then it just. But you're right, man. You're forced to move on. But I do think for Jared, he has to take some solace in the performance, and certainly was the fresher guy. I mean, so I understand there was an ankle or whatever, but I don't know. I'm still sort of sitting here with my hands in my head. I don't really know my hands don't really know what to say. What I said to John is that I thought the main event was closer. And if we move on to talk about the main event, that to me, a lot of people didn't enjoy that fight. And first, let me ask you, did you get to watch that after? right after?
I didn't watch it right after, but like I watched it the day after. So I was hearing, the press conference, post-fight press conference. I heard Dana White say, "Man, this fight was terrible or was trash." I stopped watching after the third round. I rewatched it. I'm like, that fight didn't suck. I thought that fight was good. I liked it.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you said that. I loved it, and I was not. I was kind of in the minority even where I was. And to me, you're watching these two very gifted athletes and very tough men in a very tough, not small division here. It's a vacant belt. To me, it was riveting to watch Ankalaev come back from those leg kicks and still be around in that fight. I thought it was super, super close. I actually think a draw. I understand there are circumstances. Dana was pissed when he walked out of the octagon. No one likes a vacant belt, but to me, like, kind of felt like a draw. It didn't feel like a tie game in the National Football League to me. Like I felt like it was super close. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm rolling.
No, you're good. Yeah, I was like, after rewatching it, I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, 2 and 3 are for sure for Jan. Those low kicks, they were hurting. And it's crazy how Ankalaev came back from those in the 4th and 5th round to take him down. Like, he had some explosive takedowns.
Yep.
And it just made me think, like, I figured that would be his game plan from the beginning, is to take Jan down just the way that Glover did, and Glover controlled him. And I figured Ankalaev would be able to do the same thing. And he did it in the 4th and 5th round. But I'm sitting there like, this first round, I'm like, why are you standing there trying to go blow for blow with Jan? That's his only path to victory, to beat you. Your path to victory is to take him down. So 2 to 3 him, 4 and 5 were Ankalaev, obviously, and then 1, to me, it could have went either way. It was very close,
right?
But if I'm like you said, if you're going dissecting it for every strike to every strike, it's like tough to call. So honestly, I'm good with the draw, because for me, if somebody does give Jan the first 3 rounds, you can't come out the last 2 rounds and look like that and then be the champion. And if you're Ankalaev, for you to come back after rounds 2 and 3, how are you not going to give this guy his title after fighting back that much? Like, that's the champion mindset, to have both of his legs were damaged, and he still came back in the 4th, 5th round and showed the championship heart. So to me, I'm cool with the draw, honestly.
I am too. And like, you and I, neither one of us want to sit here and like talk about the scoring, right? It's like, oh, we can talk about 10-8. We can talk. Some of that just is what it is, and some of this stuff is kind of the nature of the beast, and why it's a good thing that you finish Sean Brady, so we don't have to talk about it. So obviously that belt walks. Dana White walks out of the octagon with that belt on his shoulder, and I go upstairs with John to do the post-fight show, and Anthony Smith is on the set, right? So I was in town during the week, and Anthony Smith is doing a lot of ESPN work, and he had his buddy Sean in town. So Sean and I are sitting on the unimportant couch all week. You know what I mean? Just sort of around and kind of just staying out of the way. So I don't even know how it all went down, but circumstantially, Sean and I are standing there, and Sean and I find out before Anthony Smith, because the news is being brought to the set for the post-fight. So we find out that before Anthony Smith, that this title fight is happening between Jamal Hill now and Glover Teixeira, and the Anthony Smith fight is going away. So his friend Sean says, oh, all right, let's go out to the set so I have to see his reaction to this, right? So we go out to the set, and Sean ends up talking to someone, right? So I'm just watching Anthony Smith. And literally, when I tell you, it's like a 5-second count. They're telling him what happened, and then lights, camera, action, right? So Smith is sitting there finding out that this fight goes, which he's very excited about this fight. So main event against Jamal Hill, not a lot of options for him in the division. So you see him hear this, and he's just like looking at the camera, takes off his glasses, and he's just like, and then sits up. And the next thing you know, it's like lights, camera, action. You know what I mean? And so they go right to him to get a reaction. John sort of got him off the hook. But I didn't want to talk about our boy Jamal Hill without recognizing Anthony Smith, because he handled that well. That was nuts, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy. I was sitting there watching the post-fight show because I wanted to hear what Dana had to say about Jared's fight. And then when I heard him say that about the main event, and I was like, oh, I wonder what's going to be next. And then he brought that up. I got like so pumped because I was literally just texting Jamal before that, and Jamal was like just texting me that yeah, Jared won that. That's bull. And I'm like, oh, thanks, bro. Appreciate you, man. Good luck with the rest of camp. And then all of a sudden I saw that, and I texted him like, bro, title shot, congrats. And then it was like huge. And I was like, because you're excited for somebody.
Yes.
Because I always thought that his name needed to be in that mix. His name always needed to be in the title mix. how good he was, and the excitement that he brings to the table, even his Instagram, his social media game. I feel like they need to push him a lot more because he has a personality and he has that in a division where it's kind of quiet. It's like I feel like the two most popular guys in the division are him and Anthony Smith. So the fact that they two would have fought each other, that would have been a good light on both of them guys. So it sucks for Anthony Smith because, like you said, once you have a name on paper and you have a date, like everything changes. So I'm sure that he was already in the zone, already in the mode of fighting. You're at a fight, you get a different hype to you when you're at the fights, and you're like, yeah, I got my fight coming up, main event, coming off of that injury, you're like excited to show out. So for him to lose that really sucks. But man, I'm pumped for my boy Jamal and Glover. I was literally seeing Glover earlier that week at the PI, and we were just talking. Glover's like so good at small talk. He's like, yeah, I was talking to my wife. Bro, man, I'm so sorry. I was talking to my wife. She showed me what I needed to click to get on your show. And it was just one little button. And I told you, man, I'm so stupid. And I was like, bro, it's all good, man. Just come on again. And he's like, yeah, man, it's all good. But we were just randomly talking like, man, it sucks that you lost your title shot. He's like, it's all good, bro, man. Like nice guys like us, we have to take the longer road, man. It comes back later, but it's going to end up working itself out because for nice guys, it may take longer, but it's going to be worth it in the end. And that's literally what he told me. And then the fact that he got the title shot later that week, that was amazing, especially in Brazil where he wanted it in the first place. I'm definitely going for my boy Jamal. I was actually watching tape on Glover today because Jamal asked me for advice. What my thoughts are.
I love it. Let's go.
Yeah, so I'm giving him my thoughts on it, my breakdown of what I think it's for, and I think he's doing the right thing. Like he said, he's talking to Anthony Smith, hoping Anthony Smith comes down and helps him. Anthony Smith's been in the cage with Glover, so for a 6-week camp, you got to put everything on the table and try to go for it because you never know when you're going to get the shot again. You're going to enemy territory in Brazil, and you're fighting a legend like Glover, and it's a vacant belt on the line. Your one title shot, like he said, I always wanted to see if it was worth it, if I was good enough. And he said, I'm going to find out. So that got me hyped up. I can't wait to see it.
Oh, I love it. Dude, I can't wait. Well, congratulations, Jamal Hill. Let's go, kid. I guess he went on Bisping's podcast, Bisping and Anthony Smith, and he was saying, doesn't have to strike. I'm good everywhere, and you can be sure like that Paul Craig submission not that long ago for Jamal Hill. And he learned a lot since then. My brother's been calling him special for a long time. Can't wait for that. Fascinating matchup too. I don't know who's going to win that, but when you think about the road to becoming a champion, and it's not always a simple road, Belal Muhammad, it's been a long, you talk about the Paul Craig loss for Jamal Hill. Belal Muhammad hadn't had a loss for a long time. So Belal, your road may navigate a different way, and we'll move to the next topic. Belal/Leon, what's going on? I hear a lot going on. DC certainly thinks you deserve it. I don't know where Usman is at with his health. Is there any smoke here, bully?
Man, I don't know. I'm honestly getting a little bit nervous because they announced the London card, and I figured that would be the first fight they announced is Usman against Leon. So it tells me that maybe these rumors of Usman having another surgery are true. I did see Henry Hoof post a video of him training the other day, but that was still grappling. It wasn't punching. He had hand surgery. I know that already. So I don't know if he's not punching fully with it yet. March is not that far away if you're really thinking about it, a couple months for a title fight. I don't know if he still even came back from sparring since the concussion. So the fact that they haven't announced it yet, it's got me a little bit worried because kind of like when you look at when they announced that when they put it out there for the Diaz against Chimaev fight, when they had it just randomly breaking news, Chimaev against Diaz, and it was like somebody like uncovered it like in the back wall or something like that when it was just like a rumor, and then it like all of a sudden it came out, and then I felt like they did that to see what people's reactions would be at first. So I feel like the fact that they're saying, oh, Leon against Masvidal, they're probably waiting to see what people's reactions are first before deciding if they're going to make it or not. And it started, I don't know. I don't know if I'm just overthinking the whole situation, but I'm nervous for it because I'm like, Masvidal's coming off of 3 losses in a row. Doesn't make any sense at all. If Usman's out, there's a clear contender for next, and it is me. There is a history there. So the fight makes all the sense in the world. But you just never know what these guys are thinking.
You left me speechless there. I don't even know where to begin if we're talking about George Masvidal with a title shot. It sounds like that. It reminds me a little bit of like McGregor just popping his head back. Like he's got to pop back in for a title shot. Cejudo going to pop back in for a title shot. I don't know, man. anyway, you're going to get your title shot. It's going to come when it's going to come. And you just, keep on that road. But you don't even want to get me started on that. But the last card of the weekend is coming up this weekend. So maybe Cody Merrow wants to join us. Let's get to Bully's Bigs. What's up, kid?
Boom. We're here.
So, Director Cody Merrow joins us on the screen. Belal, did you hit your first 8?
Man, dude, I was on a perfect card. And, I picked Till, but that was more so from the heart. Like, I wanted to see Till win. I wanted to see him come back, but.
Oh, he could have won. He was right there in the second round. He was looking like a caged animal. I mean.
Yeah, anyway. That second round, it showed me a lot. And it showed me he still has the fight left in him. Even that first round, to get beat up like that and coming off of, 2 years off, like 3 or 4 losses in a row, like you would feel like you would definitely give up. And that second round, he came back and he showed it, and he showed how tough he is. And for Drickus to keep saying that, he's not an 85er, like he almost had you finished. I feel like he just needs to work on a couple more grappling techniques, more wrestling probably with Chimaev or other guys, because I felt like he was just falling too easily on some of those takedowns. But I do think he's big enough to be a 185er. I do think he's good enough to be a 185er. For Drickus to be like, I was just pissing me off every time he kept saying that. Like, he needs to go back to 170. He was good at 170. He's not good at 85. I'm like, he almost had you finished, bro. Like, a couple more shots and you would have been done.
Exactly. That was a great fight. Cody, you enjoy UFC 282?
I did. I thought it was a great show. I was banking on the Bully full card too. I mean, come on. Everyone on MMA Twitter was going for it.
Man, I was so mad. I was like, come on, bro. We're right there. And then we got screwed with Jared, and then the main event was a draw. But other than that, we got the first 8 fights. So
go ahead, Cody.
Well, so I just wanted to ask about the Gordon decision. So obviously that viral video is going around of you and Joe Rogan. Like, so he had it for Jared, right? He's like talking to you in that moment? Like,
yeah. He looked at me. He's like, bro, I got him. I got it 30-27 for Jared. And I was like, okay, cool. But, you're still nervous. So I'm like, put my hands on my knees. I'm like, come on, bro. But when I heard unanimous decision, I thought for sure it was Jared when I said unanimous. Because I'm like, there's no possible way that Paddy won a unanimous. But, like, John McCarthy made a good point where he's like, the whole crowd, anytime Paddy does anything, they're yelling, they're going nuts. If you rewatch it, a lot of the strikes that he was doing were on Jared's guard. Jared kept a good high guard the whole time. But the crowd was just going nuts anytime Paddy would do a flurry. And a lot of his flurries were wide punches. But Jared was defending most of them, all of them. And so like
that's on the judge, man. Like you can't be if you're reacting to the crowd at this stage of game. This is a professional sport, like.
Yeah, and then and another good point where everybody's bringing up Crosby was just in Connecticut the day before, and to have that fight 50-45 against Rafian, I was sitting there looking at it like, is this guy that much of an airhead? Because when I heard that first
conspiracy theory in regard to that, like both of them used to train at Duke, so maybe this guy has a problem with like Duke or something.
That's another good point. Like people do get
and it's just sad.
Egos involved and everything. And I forgot who said it. Where he, I think it was Ariel Helwani, where he's like, I feel like Doug Crosby likes to have the guys win who he thinks the UFC wants to win. And I had so many people tell me, "Oh, it's rigged. The UFC is rigged. It's on Dana White." I'm like, bro, the UFC does not book the judges. The commission does. How many times have you seen Dana White snap after fights for the judges? If you think Dana White would want a tie in the main event, I'm sure he would want a clear winner for that main event.
Exactly. Go ahead, Cody. We're going to move on to fight night.
I was just going to say, I think, and then people get all up in arms when you suggest like isolated judges or more judges. And it's like, God forbid we change the system. And then I think the biggest reason that this fight or this decision, people are like, oh, well, don't want to throw around the term robbery, this, that, or the other. It's what you have talked about before, Bully, I think with an interview with somebody else. Like, it's a life-changing thing for Jared. For Paddy, like, what does a loss do for Paddy? Nothing. Like, what does this win do for Jared? It's everything.
Yeah, exactly. But we've seen Paddy lose before. Paddy, when people kept comparing him to McGregor, even when McGregor came in, McGregor was finishing top guys. Like, he fought Max Holloway, he fought Dustin Poirier. Like, he was finishing these top dogs. Paddy's not at that level, and I don't think Paddy will get at that level because when you're getting up to 200 pounds and you're that fat out of camp, you're not working on your skills. Before this fight, we were talking with Jared, and I was like, bro, he's going to be the same fighter he was his last fight, the fight before that. He's not in there working on his skills. He's not working on what he does wrong. He puts his head back every single time, and that was the game plan, to throw that big hook, and that hook was landing at will because we see it. And when you have a camp and your biggest thing is trying to lose the weight, you're not working on bettering yourself. You're just doing cardio stuff. You're just doing little things to help you there. That's why I feel like I don't think he has the mindset that Conor had when he first got in to be a champion. He has a mindset to get rich. I just don't think he has a mindset to be a champion.
Well, and I saw somebody say that they're like, "Oh, Paddy versus Conor like would be a great fight." I'm like, "Do you guys watch MMA? Like, do you want the guy to die? Like, you can watch murder on the internet if you need to, but like, that is not what I want to sign up for. That's for sure."
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm hoping that somehow, some way, Jared talks his way into a rematch. I told him to just start adding a couple more curse words into your interviews, and maybe we could get it in London because he's asking for it in London. I just doubt that the UFC would book it, but I'm interested to see who they try to get Paddy next, because anybody that's ranked right now will be a tough test for him. I think a rematch would be a good rematch, especially if you're looking at the way this fight went. You could be, oh, well, let me get a clear winner this time. I mean, I doubt it happens, but here's to wishing.
Yeah, well, and in terms of the rematch, you got to think about if we're talking Jared wants it, you have to think, all right, does Paddy want it, right? From Paddy's standpoint, right? Whether in his own head he thinks he won or not, what's the real upside for him, and does Dana White want it? You know what I mean? And that's
I think the upside for him would be that he doesn't have to fight a ranked guy, because right now you have to go upward. So you just beat Jared Gordon, and I think if Jared would have won that, Jared probably got a ranked guy. So it's like, do you give Paddy a ranked guy right now? And if you're UFC, you're like, I want to keep building this kid up. A ranked guy right now who's number like 15 or Arman Sarukian or one of these guys, like I feel like they're going to walk through him, and there'll be a terrible matchup for him. So if you give him the Jared fight, you build him up a little bit more. You let him go through that a little bit more, and you go from there. But you can't make him go downward.
That makes great sense. Sold me. So we're gonna make 3 picks tonight,
right? Like, look. So sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt.
You're good.
Jay. From 15 to 10, Tony Ferguson. I don't need to see Tony rip up Paddy Pimblett. I'm sorry. Like, I think Tony at 45 years old rips up Paddy. Like, 14, Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson has all the attributes that Paddy has, but is a striker, is a solid guy, puts in the work. You know, might have to switch gyms if he wants to fight in the UFC. But Renato Moicano, 13. Can you imagine Renato Moicano versus Paddy Pimblett on the pay-per-view in London, if I can talk?
Yeah, I mean, that's a terrible matchup for Paddy. But
Ismagulov, Hooker, Turner, and then you're just getting RDA versus Paddy Pimblett. Who wants to watch that? What do you think the odds are on that?
I want to see Hooker Gordon, like you described, Belal.
Yeah.
Just saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm hoping that one goes through.
And I will say the MMA community does seem to have a long memory when it comes to when you win a fight and you don't get the win. Do you know what I mean? And hopefully the matchmaking core will remember that for Jared too, you know?
Well, and in addition to that, I love to see the tide turn for our guy Bully here. You know, they start talking about Masvidal, and all the internet groundswell is like, why Masvidal when Bully's here? DC's tweeting in favor of Bully. Like, it's all lining up.
Yeah, 100%. Team Muhammad all day. So we're going to pick 3 fights. First one, we didn't tell you about this, Bully. Drew Dober, Bobby Green. Can't get enough of this one. Dober, slight favorite, -155. You know, speaking of Paddy Pimblett, Dober said this week, oh, they won't give me Paddy. You know, he's a confident kid. But man, it's like both these guys been around. This is Dober's 19th walk, Bobby Green's 20th walk in the UFC, man. A lot of pro fights. These guys like 80 fights combined as pros. So Dober, 25-11 as a pro. He's won 2 in a row, both knockouts, both in 2022. Terrence McKinney, Rafael Alves? Anyway, gets the king here, Bobby Green. So Bobby Green, he beats Ally Quinta at the end of 2021. Then February beats Nasrat Haqparast, and then gets that sort of 2 weeks later, that quick, you know, Islam Makhachev catchweight 160 2 weeks later. I know there was some USADA stuff, some things going on. So he hasn't fought since then in February. I can't wait for this one. Kenny Florian, Brian Petrie on the Anik and Florian podcast on opposite sides of this one. Bully, we'll start with you. You were hot last week. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, man, I'm excited for this one. Like, yes. I always love watching Bobby Green's fights. He seems a hype right now. He said Dober was calling him out, so he seems like ready for it. Dober, his striking's another level. I think his weakness is only grappling, but Bobby Green doesn't grapple. He doesn't care about grappling, even though he does have wrestling. I think it's going to be all stand-up. It's going to be a fun one. But I think I got Bobby Green here. I think his boxing is going to be a little bit too good. He's so good at rolling with punches, rolling with kicks. And I think that he's going to be able to come from different angles that Dober's not used to. Dober, we saw him going against McKinney. McKinney caught him with a couple of hard shots early.
Yep.
I think that because McKinney comes from different angles as well. So I think if Bobby Green, with his boxing, his hand-down boxing style, Dober rushes in for something, I think he'll end up getting caught.
So Bully going with the slight dog here. We may get Cody's pick on the other side. But I'm going to move to the co-main event in the lightweight division. Arman Tsarukyan, number 9 in the world. He's minus 190. Number 12, Damir Ismagulov, his opponent. So Tsarukyan had won 5 straight before that close unanimous decision loss to Mateusz Gamrot. A lot of people actually think he won that fight. That was back in June. This kid's only 26 years old. Certainly be a nice way for him to finish the year, get that loss off the board, back in the win column. Ismagulov, who some people don't know a lot about. He's 5-0 in the UFC, all by decision. Hasn't necessarily been that active over the years, but did fight it June 18th, split decision win. I'm not going to mess with that name. Guram Kutateladze. Anyway, step up in competition here. Another fairly close one on paper. Who do you have in the co-main event?
Yeah, I was looking up Damir earlier. He's like on a 12 or 13 fight winning streak altogether in his career. I think he only has like 1 loss. He's like 25-1. He's a beast. He's really good. His last fight, the way he used that jab to keep the distance, length, he's very smart with this, smart with distance, and he does have grappling, does have wrestling, but Tsarukyan's a monster. I think that he's one of those guys that's going to be a title contender for a long time. That last fight with Gamrot, I did think he won, but just the grappling exchanges in there was amazing. The grappling exchanges he had with Islam Makhachev and his debut were amazing. I always go back and watch that fight. Fight week, I look for fights that like get me hyped up, and that's one of those fights because they were going back and forth so much in that fight, and it was such a great fight. I think Arman's one of the most talented youngsters in the game right now, and I think that he's going to be a problem. I think he's going to be too much for Damir.
Cody, feel free to give a pick on Dober Green if you want before you pick this one.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out. I mean, Bobby Green, Bully said it all. He's a fighter's fighter, right? Like, if you're a fighter, you love Bobby Green. Going back through his record, 2009, he fought Dan Lozon. 2009, he fought Charles Bennett. He fought 6 times that year. 2010, he fought Tim Means, JP Reese, Matt Ricehouse, Jacob Volkman was his UFC debut. His second fight was against James Krause, but I am betting that Drew Dober wins that fight, minus 155. And then this one, I think Tsarukyan, correct me if I'm wrong, his debut was against Islam Makhachev, right? Like, and he looked,
Bully was just saying, right?
And he looked fantastic in that fight. So I think his ceiling is in that top 10, top 5 area. Like, if he can continue to work, he's young. If he continues to put in, I believe he trains in Thailand with that crew. That they spit out killers. If you're training with Piotr Jan and Volkanovski all the time, you're going to get better. So I like Tsarukyan. I think minus 195 is probably a little steep. I think Ismagulov is a good challenge, but I think Tsarukyan gets it done.
Both guys on the favorite here. Moving to the main event, the final UFC fight of 2022. Dude, so it's pick 'em right now. Jared Cannonier, Sean Strickland, Bully's favorite fighter. So Cannonier 1-1 in 2022, gets a big knockout of Derek Brunson in February, and then that sort of underwhelming performance against Adesanya at UFC 276 in July. So Strickland had won 6 straight before the knockout at the hands of Alex Pereira. That was also UFC 276. So I've heard people on Strickland. I've heard people on Cannonier. I can't wait for this one. I know who Bully's heart might be with. Cody, why don't you lead us off in the main event, and then we'll finish up with Remember the Name.
Well, I will, because I'm pretty sure me and Bully are going to be opposite sides of this because of the aforementioned love for Sean Strickland. But I just think we can't forget what Sean Strickland was putting out there for tape before the Pereira fight. And at the time, the Strickland Pereira fight, it was like Strickland was giving him that matchup. Like, Strickland was the one that had worked his way up the ranking. Strickland was the one we were talking about with a win, would be against Adesanya. Like, Pereira fight being maybe like 8 months down the line was, I think, more realistic. But obviously Pereira went out there, smoked Sean Strickland, absolutely walked through him, and then knocked out the champion. So, hindsight's obviously 2020. And I think it's important to remember that as we rank this matchup. Obviously both of them were on the right trajectory, and then that fight happened in Vegas, which I was there for. So I just think we can't forget that. I think Strickland probably pulls in a lot of the tools. We've seen that his main sparring partner is Ankalaev, who fought a fantastic fight last weekend. So I think Strickland is the right play here, and I'm shocked to see it at a pick'em because I think the public is probably more on Cannonier, but I like Strickland here in the pick'em, so I think he gets it done.
Wow.
Well, I'm going with the exact opposite there. I'm thinking Cannonier. I think that Strickland's game, it's easy to read. You know what he's going to do. He's going to move forward, and he's going to play the boxing game. I think Cannonier, when he gets into the zone of going against guys that are just going to box him and guys that are moving forward on him, I think he did bad against Adesanya because Adesanya was so good at moving side to side, laterally, and then it's hard to figure out distance with Adesanya because he uses his kick so much. So that was the issue with Cannonier, and I know for Cannonier, you need a big comeback fight. That last fight, you had your shot at the title. A lot of people are saying that you didn't go for it. So you need a big win right here to get your name back in that mix. And Sean Strickland is the guy that you can go in there, knock him out, and you get your name right back up there again. Because Strickland, a guy, like you said, he spars with Francis Ngannou. He spars with Ankalaev. Like, that's not smart. Those guys are monsters. You're taking those shots at practice. You're an airhead. You're not smart. So your chin doesn't gain strength after you get knocked out. So I think it's a bad thing for Strickland to go against a guy like this because you have to wrestle Cannonier or fight him at a distance, the same way Adesanya did. And I don't think Strickland's going to do any of that. I think he's going to go in there, play the striking game, play the boxing game, move forward on him, try to use volume, and then Cannonier's going to catch him with something big over the top.
Well, it sounds like a broken record, right? Like prior to that UFC fight against Paddy, it was like, if Sean Strickland's smart, he'll do this. If he's smart, he'll do this. If he's smart, he'll do that. And then what did he do? He wasn't smart and he got knocked out. So it's a track record for him to be along that line as well. And, part of me is picking on the contrarian side, but
when I see Cannonier on the scale, I can't help but just think of him as a heavyweight and just sort of, you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know, man. That dude's a beast. I can't wait for this one, man. This card's sneaky good. UFC always delivers, man. I think Belal's going to have a strap around his waist in 2023. That's my New Year's resolution.
Pause.
I don't got any resolution. That's my resolution, a strap around the waist. But anyway, we appreciate you all joining us on Remember the Show. This episode 84, man. I'm going since September 2020. Now I can't say that I haven't met you, which I love. We appreciate you all joining us. I don't know if we'll do another episode before the end of the year, but if not, we'll come back strong with a game show in 2023, early January. For our director, Cody Merrow, and Belal, remember the name Muhammad. My name is Jason Anik. Thank you all. Happy New Year. Later.
Peace.